From the beginning of the process of emancipation, there is white resistance of various forms. You can look at this in the armed forces. The fact that when the Confederate Army captures or meets African American soldiers in Union uniform in the battlefield, they treat them quite often differently than they treat white Unionists in uniform. We know this from certain engagements, that Confederates killed black people disproportionately to white people who, and therefore that there were fewer black prisoners, again, disproportionately to white prisoners. So there are these clearly vengeful acts by whites against black. Once the war is over, resistance begins to take a different form. The southern state legislatures pass what we call the Black Codes. These are codes that do such things as restrict African Americans' ability to assemble in political meetings, that restrict their ability to travel. If they were stopped on, they could be stopped on the road, and if they couldn't prove that they had work and were traveling for work, they would be treated as vagrants. And vagrancy is a crime, and so they could be imprisoned for this. Black codes usually restrict the right to bear arms, which is a very important right for this time, whether for hunting, collecting food, or for self-defense. Which brings me to the extra-legal methods of the whites resisting, which is, of course, violence. Violence becomes very regular, institutionalized among whites. What happens is that once the 13th Amendment is adopted and the 14th Amendment is adopted and the 15th Amendment is adopted by 1870, they come with enforcement acts. The enforcement acts give the Army and the President the power to break extra-legal violence. Early on, this only triggers more violence among white people who simply organize better and work in secret. So this is the era where the Ku Klux Klan is created and becomes an extra-legal organization that works secretly with legal political organizations of whites that are perfectly legal, but of course white supremacist in nature. And these two, the extra-legal and the legal, work together in a concerted effort, especially to keep African American men from voting. And they have successes, so that we find that in certain places, in certain elections, like Mississippi in 1870, the violence of the Klan or Klan-related groups is able to keep African Americans from voting. And this is what leads for the enforcement acts to be pushed hard by the Grant administration. And successfully, that administration, for at least a brief period of time, truly breaks the Klan in a number of states. So that violence is, in a sense, met with a powerful government response. But eventually, the federal government backs off a bit from its willingness, its enthusiasm for resisting this violence by Southerners.